2021-2022 season. So debating is a beautiful thing and so important for our country today. It really plays a huge role in our daily lives. How much of you are trying to convince your teacher to let you off the hook with your homework? It really more than the hands that I see raised. That is considered debate. It's informal debate, and you experience that in your daily lives. So the goal of our youth debate goal today is to foster debate, civil disagreement, and civil engagement. And those are two, large goals of CDDA. But that aside, I would like to introduce our moderator. This is Audrey Norman. So he is also a teammate on the debate team, and we debated last March. It was our first deaf college debate tournament that we were involved in. So it was very, very fun and neat.
Technical issue, my bad. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for the warm welcome, Lexi. My name is Aubrey Moran. It's my last year here and discussing with my partner in crime, Lexi Hill. I also work for CDDA, Center for Deaf Democracy in America, and I am the Commissioner for Disability and Disagreement, which seems to be two of my favorite things. Disagreement. Ask my mother, she'll tell you I love to disagree. I just completed my first SVG term this past semester, and the second assistant in the debate team, second season in the debate team, Center for Democracy. I agree with Lexi that this youth debate role is very important because our future depends on it. Do I see a future SVG president in this audience? I'm sure I do. Right? We got one hand over here. That's right. You're the next president. Let's go. Debate forces us to reconsider, and look at things from a different perspective, from different sides of the same issue. For a topic statement, kids under the age of 14 should be allowed to have social media. Let me ask, how many of you think this is true? Now, hold on. Don't give an answer yet. We don't have an opportunity to do that with the QR code to vote for the affirmative or negative. With our finalists, I want to recognize the work that has been done, the debate team coming into the semifinals, doing the pitch, 45 minutes, and then brought you to where you are now up on the stage. All of your hard work paid off. Congratulations. Arguing in the affirmative is King Shank. Arguing in the negative is Jonah Adam Churchin. Lexi?
I do want to add that he's in 7th grade from the Maryland School for the Deaf, and Jonah is from the Florida Virtual School for the Deaf. And we are going to volunteer. We also have volunteer judges for our debate. The first judge is Megan Shanks. She is faculty and program assistant for the MA program here in International Development, so the IDMA program at Gallaudet. She's also a 3rd-year PhD student in the School of International Service at American University, so hats off to you, Megan. So very exciting. Our next volunteer judge is Ramel Thurman, who who was part of the Gallaudet, and is a member and co-captain of the Gallaudet debate team, and a senior major in government with a minor in physical education and recreation. Graduating in December, last but not least, is Dr. William Ennis. He is an associate professor of history at Gallaudet University. He received his BA in history from Gallaudet and his MA and PhD from the University of Iowa. Welcome, and thank you to all of our volunteer judges. So, the judges are looking for very specific criteria. It is not based on their own opinions, but rather all these criteria listed here. And there are 6 of them. So, first of all, the big picture of the debater. You know, the big picture of their argument. Does it flow? Does it all come together? So the overarching big picture of the heart of their argument. Civility. You know, are they civil? Are they debating appropriately? The goal really is to introduce new ideas, exchange information. That's how we grow as American citizens. Next is the use of compelling evidence. Of compelling evidence. There's a lot of statistics out there. Are they using it wisely to support their argument? Of course, storytelling. Most of us don't remember the numbers, but we remember the stories. You know, human stories are what make it stick. And so, do they have stories in their argument so that we can experience some empathy in that personal connection? And then, of course, the debate is strategic, right? So, strategic responses to their opponent and to the moderator. And then the debate is all about passion and strength. And so, are they expressing passion and strength, showing that they believe they are right?
In terms of the debate structure, we have a 3-minute opening from each side, affirmative, negative. We start with affirmative, and that's our opening statements. And then the negative opening statement for 3 minutes as well. Then the affirmative rebuttal, negative rebuttal, and then we'll have what we call crossfire, 1.5 minutes each, so they can answer questions. And rapid fire. Then next we'll have questions from the judges, 1 question each, 1.5 minutes each to respond to that question. Then we'll have closing statements from each, and then feedback and comments from our judges. That's the structure. Any questions about that? Great.
Before we begin, debate is all about convincing you of their argument. So please, with your phone, go ahead and take a picture of this QR code. Did everyone take a picture of this? Go ahead, let's go back so everyone can vote. Sorry for the technical difficulties. We tested it yesterday and it worked, so. Should we refresh it? Tough job here. Good luck to the affirmative. You got a lot of convincing to do. So 15.2% of you believe that kids under the age of 14 should have social media, and 84.8% believe that they should not. So let's see if the debate convinces you and changes your mind. So without further ado, let us begin. So are our debaters ready? Judges ready? And audience members ready?
Okay, we will begin with the gentleman, Joaquin Shank. Give you 3 minutes. We'll begin. You'll see the timer countdown right here behind you. We'll start right now.
In 1997 and before, way before social media was invented, many children were struggling with their identity. They probably had few friends, they were probably bullied in school, they probably felt alone, without any friends, and especially kids with disabilities, they may have thought they were the only ones in the world. And deaf kids thought that they didn't have anyone else like them. In 1997, from 1997 to 2022, many kids found their identity. They also found friends that had exactly the same experiences they did. And they were able to acknowledge that they weren't the only ones that faced those tough barriers. So they developed social skills, and so I'm going to talk about this hot topic now. I believe social media should be allowed for 14 and under. It's more acceptable than the real world. So 29, developing social skills is very important, and many people think social media takes social skills away from the teenagers, but it's the opposite. It gives better social skills to the teenagers. 29% of teenagers feel less shy on social media. Since social media is way more acceptable than the real world, 20% claim it made them more confident in social media than the real world. 19% believe social media made them understand their emotions more. And not only that, some people talk to other people on social media because they trust them more. 57% of teenagers have a friend from social media. Moving on to people finding themselves and their identity. As I mentioned in the introduction, lots of people find their identity on social media. Not only that, but friends as well. So many kids are struggling with their LGBTQA plus identity as well as their deaf identity, and many people are more open. Only 2% of LGBTQ plus people were openly gay before social media, now 20.7%, because it's more acceptable. They realize people aren't as bad, it's less scary, more acceptable and more accessible in 2022. Same with disability. They realize that they're not the only one with a disability. They may even find that some people are exactly like them and exchange information or tips with other people. So they find friends, increased by 57%. They're also more knowledgeable about what's happening around the world and with current events. Current events with social media on our phone means that we get our news much more quickly. It used to be before social media that it took too much time. Kids weren't interested. It was small print. It was in a newspaper. Now, and it was day-old news. Now, with social media, we get it in less than an hour. It's very accessible for video and they log English text and all that.
Growing up, I didn't have any social media. My sister and I would come home from school and we'd play, we'd go outside, have a good time, and then come in and do our homework. The generation we're seeing now comes straight home and end up going right in and start doing their screen time, hours on end. They don't go out and play, they don't interact anymore, and now they in fact have come to a point where they don't even know how to, compared to what it used to be like. They don't go biking with each other, not playing sports with each other. So it's kind of sad to me to see that that is what the new generation is experiencing. 70% of the youth are experiencing cyberbullying. And the reasons behind that are 60% due to how they look, 25% due to their achievement, 25% due to their race, 50% due to their sexual orientation, 50% due to their religion, and 20% rather for other reasons. And this evidences to us that it's not safe to be on social media. It can result in such things as depression, eating disorders, and maybe you're wondering why. Oftentimes women are shown images of perfect bodies, and so young girls begin following that, and as a result, they end up with an eating disorder. It causes stress. Stress is already enough at school, and now all we're finding is that the social media adds to that. There's also anxiety. Probably many of you worry about being on, say, Instagram, and worried about how many people are following you or how many people have liked you, and afraid that perhaps people knowing that you don't have many people on your particular social media may make fun of you, right? So that's one of the issues that we're also encountering. There's also issues of self-esteem that are involved. And then, a real issue is a large number of suicides are occurring. 1 in 5 youth who are on social media in the United States end up, because of cyberbullying, killing themselves. And this is all the end result of the anxiety, stress, and depression that has resulted from their use of social media. Our children are exposed to these things far too early. It's not healthy. Also, the Child Crime Prevention and Safety Center has shown that there are 500,000 predators actively online seeking children whom they could take advantage of. 2 out of 10 are only aware that such a thing can happen, meaning that 80% of the others are easy targets or prey. And oftentimes, these individuals who are predators will create profiles that seem to be in tandem or in agreement with the child, but isn't. And on top of that, we're also seeing from the China Model Institute that because people are only going out 4 to 7 minutes, that there's been a serious health impact in not having enough vitamin D.
I know he said that it's very dramatic, but there are lots of different solutions. There are lots of filters. There can be a law that can be required. There are free apps to monitor so that the parents can get updates. Many parents don't have time to monitor their kids, so those free apps can be very useful. There are some really cool features that let you monitor your kids on social media and keep them safe. There are other ways to keep them safe. Adding a law that requires social media companies to add a way to protect the kids, prevent all kinds of people on social media from interacting with the kids. And once they're safe on social media, then there's a safe search to make sure everything is appropriate. So we can also, there's one solution, is adding a filter. It's used on the picture in the comment section so that kids know that their picture is 100% authentic. There can be more mental health pages on social media that will go live maybe every week to explain about different mental health issues through social media. And there can be, a part about filters so kids can understand that it's fake, not real, and it's okay to be different. Say something bad that will affect their future in a bad way. One way is once they download social media and put their age, then they'll have a lesson on social media that the social media companies will provide how to be appropriate on social media.
Just a second. They claim that that there used to be only 2% of individuals who were afraid to disclose a certain identity, and now that has increased significantly, up to 20%. And how has that been done? There are still a lot of people who are in danger of being attacked because of those identities, and so we have to be careful about that. As a deaf person, and that includes me as well, we still experience the bullying online. Talking about legal remedies for this, I don't see how that's going to be possible. Anyway, to be able to catch every single thing that happens. And also, people who are trying to be deceptive on the internet are not going to be easy to find. How do you have a law that covers absolutely everyone? I'm also talking about sending people to have to go to therapy and whatnot. And so this can be an additional financial burden upon families. Again, I was talking about 4 to 7 minutes that kids are outside. They're literally inside the rest of the time with their faces on a screen. And I think that oftentimes that affects their ability to be able to be confident. And if you add lots of filters in there, that often shows a lack of trust in the individual. And by demonstrating that lack of trust in self because of those filters, they may not develop their own self-confidence.
Now, each side gets 1 minute, 30 seconds for the crossfire questions. I can see discussions in the audience regarding the debate. That's a wonderful factor of all of this, having an open debate like this. I'm really wanting to know, so far, has anyone changed their mind from their original vote? So maybe a little bit here, some people not so convinced, mostly the same perceptions. It's hard to change people's opinions. Very difficult. You may be wondering why we do this crossfire part of this. It's an opportunity for both sides to then get some of their points across that they maybe were not able to present. They can get them in this way through asking their opponent a challenging question. This requires strategic thinking. You can't just ask any question. Why is the sky blue? That's really not going to help, right? This is a debate, so you have to be very considerate of your question. 1 minute, 30 seconds is out. Okay, so first question. Both debaters, please sing.
Okay, so my question is, how can kids get the news and world news so that they can understand their own identity?
If they're not certain about which identities and that they're the only one, they have parents that they can go to and talk to. There's also people at school. It's not like they're living in isolation and couldn't find those answers out.
Okay, so how can the kids acknowledge that they're not the only one who are deaf or have other disabilities?
They can go to TV to do that. There's all kinds of stations to get news on.
How can kids have free speech without social media?
I think that if there's only one particular area that someone is not allowed to do, it's very different than saying everything you can't talk about. This is the land of the free.
Well, how can they express their opinions to other people if they don't?
The question is, why do they have to make that such a national thing? Why can't it just be within their own families? Is that a need?
Well,
If you have something to express, not why express it in your intimate group.
okay, but if they want to come out or share things with their friends, how are they going to do that if they don't have social media?
But when you do that, you then open yourself up to all kinds of attacks. You know, it seems to me that it seems more intelligent to think it over and think it through with your own family.
Okay, so then then how do we, resolve that if you don't have social media and you can't have a discussion with your friends?
That's why we have school counselors, that's why we have teachers, that's why we have schools. It's not, there are other options. You said, I stated a statistic that kids only get out 4 to 7 minutes a day, and it's having health impacts. When you have low vitamin D, it impacts your skeletal system, calcium in your body, and so forth, and it creates a lot of exhaustion. And so we're seeing that happen. So how do you get around that problem of how much time you're using?
You can have parental controls to limit how much they use. They can have, limited time in social media and yet still have social media. There's no difference.
If that has always been the case, why do we still face this problem now? In fact, the problem is actually getting worse, not better,
Yeah, well,
with teenage suicide.
we've improved the system. We have a law. That law will make sure that they have access.
The numbers are
Will
still
be
going up.
outside. Will still have access to their phone, but it's limited so they can still learn how to use it.
If we could immediately do something to tamp the problem, that's one thing, but this worldwide, we're seeing that this has become a national and international problem, frankly. So the question is that no one seems to be able to create a solution, nothing that certainly is going to happen very quickly. And I'm not sure the filters are the answer.
Yeah, other companies can actually make a way so that, you can ban people from, luring kids in, and they can limit kids' time, and so kids can still go outside.
So why don't they just go ahead and do that? Why aren't they?
Because we'll pass a law from the government, and the government will pass a law.
Now we're going to take just a moment for the judges to prepare their questions. Wow, that was rapid fire. Now you know why I call it crossfire. Sometimes it's fun to disagree, right? If I didn't know better, I would say that these really are adults in kid suits. Right? They did a great job, didn't they? Didn't they? Yeah. People are saying, yeah, these are debaters in the making. Now, I know you want to ask them a question. Why don't you ask each other? What do you think? What do you think about this debate? Who's winning so far? Okay, so the judges are saying, get everyone's attention. Stop the clock. The judges are ready for their questions. And we are going to start with the affirmative and 1 minute 30 seconds to answer the judge's question. Are we ready? What is your question? Is your solution you proposed, is it truly viable?
My solution is definitely viable. There are many different ways to resolve these issues. Parents can take the phone and make the kids go outside. It's, it is a very serious problem. They do need to go outside and play, but it's very easy. They can still have social media and play outside. And social media can also be banned in school. Kids can arrive home and use social media. They can limit their time. Parents can have parental controls so that they're not on their phone too much time. So that our kids are fully healthy. Social media is very important. If you take it away or you ban it, how are they going to communicate with their friends? Because everyone has social media these days. And there's definitely good environments in social media. It's very important for kids to have that. And if they don't, how are they going to communicate with their friends and develop their identity? And if it's taken away, then they're going to be isolated. And they may not even go outside if they don't have social media. If they have it, they're going to feel good and be connected with their friends.
Thank you. Next question for Jonah. Can you talk a little bit more about the data you cited and where you got those sources from?
Do I need to repeat the question? Shall I begin? The question is, where do I get my data and stats from? I looked at different areas when I went through in browsers, and I found tons of statistics. If you go into certain links, you can find that there are all of these percentages that are given, like I said. The problem is that statistics are all right in there. You have to actually go through and tease what you want out. When I was looking at things like depression and things like fighting and anxiety and depression, etc. And this is illustrative of what I used.
There's a follow-up question. More specifically, the data sources, where did they come from? Which website did they come from? Which publications did they come from? More specifically.
There's the Child Mind Institute, was one of the places in which I got that information. They have a lot of statistics. They looked at both kids with social media and compared them to those without.
Now it's time for closing statements. We're going to start with Keene and then John.
So I think kids should have social media because they struggled a whole lot before 1997. They didn't have friends, they felt alone, especially deaf kids. If they were only deaf kid in a mainstream environment, they felt alone, they only had an interpreter. And people also were afraid to come out if they were LGBTQA. Only 2% came out, but after social media was invented, lots of people, it was a very successful tool. Our society is much more open, it's very important. The BLM movement is successful because of social media, and people are much more equal, on equal footing in social media. People also develop their social skills, that's very important for social media. If you take that away, it actually has more of an impact on kids' social media, on their social skills, because it's our culture today, that we use social media, and so we have to learn those social skills in order to fit in. That we learn it from social media, so that's very important. People also find their identity, their LGBTQA identity. It used to be considered a crime, really bad, and now it's much more acceptable, and people feel more free to communicate and free to come out. And then also news. Kids are much more involved in daily, the world news. They get much more information on their apps, on different, different social media platforms, so they're aware of what's happening in the world much more so than in the past. So I definitely believe that kids should have social media.
Growing up. And then around 2007, I would come home and go out and play and interact with others, and then there was a sudden shift that occurred with the advent of social media. I started seeing a lot of my friends staying home all the time because of social media. They were no longer interested in playing sports. They were no longer interested in playing basketball. They only wanted to take the opportunity to use screen time and nothing more. They didn't have the opportunity to interact with each other. All of that's gone, and I think that that is tragic. And also, social media has many ways that people can be cyberbullied. We talked about that. The number of ways, attacking people's sexual orientation, attacking them for their appearance, attacking them for religion, and on and on. We also talked about how all of that can result in suicide, and that these stats are for real. We also noticed that there are health consequences, that when you're in all day and only taking 4 to 7 minutes to get outside, sometimes it may be just to go from home to school and nothing else. And oftentimes, even when they go out on vacation, when they could be outdoors a lot, well, they don't. They stay in playing on their screens and doing all their social media and what have you. I think that if you look at adults and kids, I think adults handling social media have a lot more resources than kids do. What happens when a kid encounters something that they didn't expect or aren't ready to handle? It results in depression. It results in completely upending their lives. And so I think that what we need to do is keep private accounts. You can still do that. There's a way that someone could get into Instagram, for example, even if you try and mask it. So people can still get in and create harm. And some predators are very good about getting in online and getting to people. So can we, with 100% certainty, guarantee the safety of kids who are using it? No, we can't. And again, I have to emphasize the growing number of suicides that are resulting. We are talking about 20% of the youth population, right? And that number is getting larger and larger. This is not an insignificant statistic. So based on all those reasons, I believe that 14-year-olds and older should not have access to social media.
Okay, now the judges are going to take a few minutes to compose their feedback. And here is the QR code again. We would like your results, if you wouldn't mind. If you would go ahead and use this QR code to re-enter your votes. Just one moment while we start the poll. Okay, refresh your screens. Try again. Okay, try it now. Look at that. Look at that. You can make some folks in your affirmative defense. It's not as much, but it's better than what it was. Very rare that folks change their mind like this, and so it's just one at a time. $75-25. Thank you for participating in our poll. Judges seem like they need a minute. How many of you are thinking about joining the debate team at your schools now? Put some hands over here. You said you're chicken. You're chicken. All right, that's all right. Any other comments here? My statistics person is saying if 8 of you have changed your mind to say that yes, we should have social media, that's an increase. That means our debater is up here. So some discussion. Debaters are patiently waiting the results. My experience at Morehouse is that when judges start being quiet and making notes, that's when I start getting butterflies. We went up against Howard University. The judges discussed our delivery for 20 minutes while we had to go off stage and wait in the other room. So I understand the waiting is can be ancient. Student feedback right now. The winners will be announced at 5. Do you feedback? Our judges are ready. Who would like to begin? Dr. Ennis for the affirmative. Apologies, we'll begin with the negative. Your story and your statistics for the storytelling aspect was very strong. Remembering the data and the citations of where that data comes from is very important to make that explicit in debates. I would encourage you not to forget that point. Especially when mentioning publications, citations, name it. If you mention stats, be sure to include the publication. I would give the same feedback, make sure you include that, the citations. Clearly frame your main points. I saw that you did that, and that they logically follow to your conclusion. So sign pointing is an important aspect of debate. Make sure that you cover those. And bringing your points connected with through your storytelling aspect. I thought that was great. So sign posting is very important. I appreciate you doing that. Thank you, judges. The winner will be announced tonight at dinner, and that concludes our second annual debate. Let you know, Saturday we have high school debates. Well, the question is, should deaf people serve in the military? So that's also look for on Facebook, on our Facebook page, and new programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you.